What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning into the program today. How robots have taken over my life. Yes, I have fallen in love with a robot. At 8 o'clock this morning, I'm going to give you a demonstration in real time live using artificial intelligence to show you about how I am incorporating artificial intelligence into my life, this show, and almost everything that I do on a daily basis, and how this technology could change your life as well. Stick around this morning at 8 a.m. when I give you a full real-time live demonstration using new artificial intelligence technology that's available to regular people just like you and I. And I'll explain to you how it works, how I'm using it, and answer any questions that you may have. I fell in love with a robot starting at 8 a.m. this morning. First up, though, at the top of the show, we're going to talk about what it was that we gained as liberty lovers in the McCarthy speaker votes, the bills that are going to be guaranteed for a vote. I've got a list for you and why I think that it was a big win for people who love freedom and limited government here in the United States for us to delay that speaker vote as many times as possible. Jon Miltimore is going to join us this morning at 7:30 to talk about that a little bit as well. But before I get to Jon Miltimore, we are going to be talking a little bit about how the FBI has been underreporting defensive gun use. Yes, that's right. The Federal Bureau of Investigation puts out crime report statistics about how many times in mass shootings there have been defensive gun uses where private citizens, not police officers, private citizens have actually interceded to defend their lives and the lives of others, and how the FBI, in my opinion, is criminally underreporting those statistics. We'll talk about that this morning at 7:20. You don't want to miss that conversation coming up here in just a few minutes. And then today at 8:30 this morning, J.D. Tuccille will be joining us to talk about how the government snoops on innocent people in Maine. Love to hear your thoughts on this one. Make sure that you stick around for J.D. Tuccille from Reason Magazine this morning at 8:30. It's going to be a great program, great guests, awesome topics. You don't want to miss a minute. If you'd like to intercede, if you'd like to join the show this morning and have your text read on air, you can send us a text for free at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you this morning. You can alternatively support the show by sending us a super chat over on YouTube at youtube.com/AP4Liberty. That's AP, the number 4. AP for Liberty. We'd love to hear from you over there. I see that the chat is live this morning. John Rail is already here with us. Quest Fanning, Maria, Andy Opperman, Chris, and Adam Armstrong over here this morning. Oh, Adam's so mad at me about the debate last night. Yeah, just briefly, if you missed it, last night I debated on InfoWars, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I'm not sure if they've posted the link to the full hour-long debate, but it was a fascinating discussion back and forth with myself and another guest hosted by InfoWars to discuss the question surrounding the John F. Kennedy assassination debate. I'm sure that full debate will be coming out here in about an hour, or excuse me, probably coming out within 24 hours. So hopefully you'll get a chance to watch that one. And it looks like Adam Armstrong was not a fan of my political viewpoints on that one. Yeah, a lot of people have taken the JFK assassination to be a matter of religion rather than one of facts and study. And it's sort of when you deny many of the conspiracy theories on this one, it's essentially it's like denying someone's religion, and people get very emotional upset, as Adam seems to be this morning. Adam, I'm sorry that you are so ensconced in conspiracy theory that you're unable to see that there are times when you have to look at the facts and make a determination, even if you don't want it to be the answer. See, it would be in my best interest as a libertarian for the CIA and the FBI to have committed that heinous act, because then I could say, well, look, they're just so evil. But sometimes you have to say, the facts don't actually go along with my theories. Chris Morrill, you missed that. You missed it. You're gonna have to sit that one out. You're gonna get a flood of InfoWars crazies on here today. Who knows? It's hard to say, Chris. But let's talk about what really matters here, because why are we debating a 50 to 60-year-old event of no import for today? 7 conservative bills. Yes, 7 important conservative bills are guaranteed to receive a House vote. They say guaranteed. But as I've understood in government, nothing is really ever guaranteed except death and taxes, right? But according to the negotiations that were made during the votes to place Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, the concessions that were made are supposed to mean that we will get a vote on 7 conservative bills. That is a big win, as this is a result of last week's tough speakership negotiations. And I'll just go ahead and start this with my opinion right away and say that, what did I think about the Kevin McCarthy nomination being delayed? I thought it was fantastic. Great. You know what? It didn't bother me. It bothered a lot of people. For some reason. As a matter of fact, I posted over on Instagram a couple of days ago about how some two-party cultists were upset that there's not a House Speaker yet, and then there's a picture of libertarians enjoying the show. Apparently, I wasn't the only libertarian, and when I say libertarian, not as a member of the party, but a small L libertarian. But I wasn't the only libertarian who thought that that was great, and that that the House Freedom Caucus, Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and others, who stood up against just blindly confirming Kevin McCarthy, that was a good thing, and that it ended up getting the kinds of concessions that people who are for limited government would love to see. As a matter of fact, when we look at this list of 7 bills that are supposed to be voted on, including some rules in the House, which are separate, of course, from legislation, we'll talk about that in a moment. It looks as if not only are we going to get some great bills at least voted on, but also some rules changes in the House that could mean more power for people who are in favor of limited government. Now, not everybody was happy with it. Of course, Hey Ryan over at Instagram says, "You're literally that meme where the guy alone at the party says something like, they don't understand the two-party system is rigged, while everyone else at the party is actually fighting for their values and winning political victories." Wow. Okay. Well, good point there. Somebody else says, "I'm loving it. I think it's funny when the unipartyists say now's the time to fight against the GOP, but the Democrats could take over." Very funny. Someone else said, "Since libertarians aren't serious about winning elections, of course they don't care." Ouch. Another person says, "DF? Libertarians are the ones who want to murder children up to 2 years after abortions. I have receipts, can prove it. And they want it liberal. They want to take away guns. I have receipts, can price it. Come on, man. You sorry low life going to hell ass can at least put out some good poop like you used to." Of course, he didn't say poop. He said something else. I liked Appalachia's Anape, who responded to that person saying, "Patrick prefers to sit when he pees." Funny stuff, but who cares what the people on Twitter and on Facebook and on Instagram are saying? Let's talk about what really matters, which is this 7 bills that were promised for a vote. Now, it's not a guarantee that they're going to pass, of course. The Republicans only have a 1-seat majority in the House of Representatives. So let's talk about what, in theory, could pass if we actually had a Congress who did their jobs. Number 1, the negotiated language that elected Speaker McCarthy, a bill is promised to be brought to the floor for a vote to rescind certain balances made available to the Internal Revenue Service. This is huge, okay? This is the big one. Essentially, what they're talking about here is Defunding the police. Yes. Now, even Republicans are in favor of defunding the police. It just depends on which police we're talking about here. And of course, what is the IRS, if nothing but a bunch of tax cops? Yes, that's true. The IRS, which exactly, yes. The IRS is just the police. Their job is to count, their bean counters with machine guns, essentially. A bill to rescind certain balances made available to the IRS. So the first bill that we brought to the floor will be a vote to defund the 87,000 new IRS agents that were slated to be hired by the Inflation Reduction Act passed by Joe Biden last year. This is great news. At least we'll get a vote on it. Good reasons for why the people who were for the people who showed up and fought against McCarthy just being nominated without a debate. Miss FUK Nuts said, just saw your debate on JFK and American Journal. You did a great job. Thank you very much. I appreciate that one. See, not everybody was so upset about it. Glad to have you here, by the way. It's nice to see new names and faces. The second bill that was promised to be brought to the floor in exchange for the nomination of Kevin McCarthy was a bill to authorize the Secretary of Homeland Security to suspend the entry of aliens and of other persons. So, taking some action on illegal immigration. That I'm sure that will make a lot of Republicans happy. Number 3, a bill to prohibit the Secretary of Energy from sending petroleum products from the strategic oil reserves to China and for other purposes. Now, see, the question about is what do you mean for other purposes, right? There's always this stuff that's laden in the bill. The question is what's really important here, which is, should we be sending any of Americans' oil reserves to China? And I say absolutely not. So good job for Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus for at least demanding that we get a vote on something like that. Miss Nuts said, I still believe there's some level of conspiracy, though. That's reasonable. I mean, she's talking about the JFK stuff, which I will talk about in more detail later. I just thought you did the best job in debating. I can recognize greatness even when I disagree. Well, you're cool, Miss Nuts. I appreciate you. And welcome this morning, by the way. Glad to have you here this morning. Yeah, I mean, like I said last night in the debate, I can absolutely understand why people thought there was a conspiracy because of all the shadiness surrounding it. But again, we'll talk about that later. Let's continue. The fourth concession that the House Freedom Caucus got in exchange for nominating Rep. McCarthy to be Speaker of the House, a bill to amend the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act to direct the District Attorney and Prosecutor's Office to report to the Attorney General and for other purposes, right? To have the DAs and prosecutors report to the Attorney General. I'm not sure of the implications of that, but I can imagine that if it came from the Freedom Caucus, it's likely a good thing. I'll have Jon Miltimore this morning at 7:30 to give us some more detail on that. The fifth concession that the House Freedom Caucus managed to wring from the nomination of McCarthy was a bill to require National Instant Crime Background Check System to notify immigrations and relevant state and local law enforcement agencies whenever the information available to the system indicates that a person illegally or unlawfully in the United States may be attempting to receive a firearm. So this is a tough one for me because the question is that under what circumstances can the U.S. Congress actually make a law prohibiting the infringing on Second Amendment rights? So the question is do the constitutional rights that are afforded afforded to American citizens, do they extend to illegal immigrants? Well, according to the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, they do, because of the language that's involved in the 14th Amendment, where there is anyone within U.S. jurisdiction. So this is a sticky question. I know a lot of people, especially on the right, would love to say, no, constitutional rights don't apply to illegal aliens. Well, you can't murder an illegal alien, right? Just because they came here to the United States. There are lots of things that you cannot do to a person if they're within U.S. jurisdiction. They'd still be a crime because that person still enjoys the constitutional right to life, liberty, and property without due process. So if that illegal immigrant receives due process, so the question is can Congress infringe on their right to bear arms? I think it's an interesting question and one that we should probably have this morning. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it at 573-319-1586. Someone texted in actually right now and said, someone asked what I'd need to be okay with McCarthy. My answer was simple: cut spending. Amen, brother. Amen. Bills to cut spending. Well, if they do cut the IRS agents, that'd be a bill to cut spending. Absolutely. Like I said, you can text us 573-319-1586. Rare Camelia's already starting off the Monday morning with a nice little pessimist pee in our Coke. And she says that I'm calling it now. McCarthy won't do half the things on that list. He knows he wore them down and he could do it again. Oh, when you say he won't do half the things on the list, you mean that you don't believe that he's going to bring him to the floor to the vote? I mean, with that, I guess I could understand. But in terms of actually getting these bills passed, I mean, they don't have, it's not like they have a supermajority. Number 6, a bill to prohibit taxpayer-funded abortions. Love it. You love to see it. Absolutely. And if they can pass that, that would certainly be a major win. We're talking about the concessions, if you're just tuning in, the concessions that are being made, that were made by McCarthy in order to get him across the finish line. And the 7th and final bill that is guaranteed to receive a vote, guaranteed according to McCarthy, we'll see if that happens, is a bill to amend Title 18 to prohibit a healthcare practitioner from failing to exercise the proper degree of care in case of a child who survives an abortion or attempted abortion, meaning that it would prosecute a doctor if they do not protect the life of a child who survives an abortion or attempted abortion. In my mind, that's a win, but you know what? Donald Trump is not going to like that one because he thinks that it was the abortion issue that cost us the midterms last year. What do you think? Send us a text again, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Coming up next, defensive gun use. The FBI is underreporting about it. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today is January the 9th of 2023. Are you doing what I'm doing and writing 22 still on everything that you write? This is why I'm really excited for artificial intelligence to just take everything over. Just do all of that manual work so that I don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what I've started to do. Did you enjoy our Barack Obama commercial? He was so kind to step into the studio over the weekend and record the audio for that commercial for the AP for Liberty shop. So you know what? I got to say thank you, Barack Obama. Thanks, Obama, for recording that commercial. At 8 o'clock this morning on the program, I'm very excited to introduce to you how artificial intelligence is changing my life and how it can change yours as well. We'll talk about that this morning. You aren't going to want to miss a single moment of that. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Big news, a U.S. appeals court on Friday struck down a rule that the Trump administration had adopted following the 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas that banned, quote, bump stocks. These are devices that allow people to rapidly fire multiple rounds from semi-automatic guns. In a 13-3 decision, the New Orleans-based 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said that despite tremendous public pressure to impose a ban, it was up to the United States Congress, rather than the president, to take action. Now, while the ATF, an explosives organization, has interpreted a law banning machine guns as extending to bump stocks, U.S. Circuit Court Judge Jennifer Walker Elrod said the law did not unambiguously prohibit them. So Elrod, she was writing for the majority, said the law also did not give, quote, fair warning that possession of a non-mechanical bump stock is a crime. Now, one of the dissenting judges wrote that the majority employed reasoning to legalize an instrument of mass murder. Well, of course, the instrument was already legal because what the president did was illegal, according to the majority of this court in Louisiana. Now, I think also it's fascinating that the justice wrote that fair warning that the law did not give fair warning that the possession of a non-mechanical bump stock is a crime, which is very important because what we're talking about here is that the people who owned these bump stocks were not given fair warning that owning it would be a crime, meaning that they were not giving the proper notification that was sent out to people who owned bump stocks to say, hey, you can't own this thing, or else you're committing a crime simply by owning this. This is good news because this means that it goes back to the Congress to regulate it. Now, will Congress pass a law banning bump stocks? I don't know the answer to that question. Did I give away a bump stock as part of my 2018 U.S. Senate campaign here in the state of Missouri? Hell yeah, I did. And it was awesome. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. One listener texted in this morning and says, I'm a bit younger, but from what I can understand, the Supreme Court said Gitmo was kosher because they were not American. That never sat right with me. Well, it never sat right with me either, sir. And good morning to you. Thank you for joining us today. Nice to have some liberty lovers joining us this morning on the program live. Quest Fanning says, can FOIA be used to compel the FBI and other agencies to proper reporting practices? Great question, Quest. I think probably they can. As a matter of fact, I think that FOIA, Freedom of Information requests, are probably one of our best tools in reining in unlimited government, simply because government changes its practices when it's exposed to the harsh light of day. And the more that we are exposing the government for what they do, the more we're going to be able to hold them accountable, number one. And two, I think that they will react to this. Now, they'll try and be more secretive in other ways. They'll try and evoke laws that protect them, executive privileges and things like that. But I think that the more we're using Freedom of Information requests, as you say, Quest, the more we're going to be seeing government changing its practices in ways that I think that you and I would prefer. You can also text this just like Quest did, again at 573-319-1586. And I'm glad to have all these text messages this morning. A nice lively crowd today. Glad to have you here. On the topic of the Second Amendment here, I thought I was a little disappointed by what I was reading over at the National Review. Not that I don't like the National Review, because I know that a lot of people think they've gone off the rails in recent years. To me, I really think it's just that they've kind of gone out of style for the mainstream politics that we have today on the right. But the reason why I am upset with the National Review this morning is I'm reading this news about how bump stocks are, quote, still a matter for Congress, by Robert Verbruggen, who says that looking back at the Las Vegas shooting, he made 2 points about bump stocks. One is that since these devices make semi-automatic guns fire about as rapidly as fully automatic weapons, they should be treated like fully automatic weapons under the law. Yeah, no, I don't think so, Robert. I'd like to disagree with you there on that one. But at least Robert Verbruggen does admit that he thought it was wrong the way that the President of the United States just banned them through executive order. Not the proper way to do those things. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get into the defensive gun use statistics being underreported by the FBI just yet, because I got to go get Jon Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. I'm going to go get John because we're going to talk to him about these concessions that were made by Kevin McCarthy during the speaker vote. I'm going to get his take on that one, maybe ask him a little bit about the bump stocks. If you've got a question for him, send us a text, 573-319-1586. Who knows what artificial intelligence may have for you during the commercial breaks today. You don't want to miss a single minute of the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
I'm Stephanie, Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us. I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you? I want to ask you today to join Petersen's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Petersen's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself, or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericashow.com. Amosexuals unite, says Roger Sterling over on Twitch this morning. Good morning, Roger. You're definitely in the right place. You just missed our conversation talking about bump stocks. We will continue that discussion a little bit later on in the program. But first, before we do, I wanted to talk to my good friend Jon Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education about the vote for Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. He's joining us right now. Good morning, Jon. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great this morning, Austin. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on today, Jon. So I guess let's just get it right out of the way. Your thoughts on the nomination process of Kevin McCarthy?
Well, first I gotta ask you, how many ballots did it take eventually? Was it 14? Was it 15?
15 ballots, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't follow it religiously. There's a lot of Twitter chatter. I really think a lot of this is the tempest in the teapot. This procedural stuff. The media loves to focus on it. And libertarians, I think to their credit, like to harp on it and kind of sneer at it, which is good. Watching politics work was kind of fun. Like, I don't know about you, but watching these live C-SPAN videos where the House Speaker actually isn't controlling things. C-SPAN could kind of do what they wanted. You're getting great close-ups of lawmakers talking. I actually wish our process was more like that. I'd kind of like to see in there more and it used to be that way. I think like it was a little bit more of a free-for-all where C-SPAN, when they could, you'd get better shots and things like that. As far as McCarthy, This was the only outcome that made sense to me. I'll start with 2 points. I'll finish that one first. Um, McCarthy got what 200 votes on the first ballot. There was sort of a couple other. You had Jim Jordan in the mix. You had Chip Roy. You had a few other people that were kind of. There was really no other serious challenger. Maybe there was like a Steve Scalise in the background there. There's several people I would have personally said, hey, they would have be better speakers than McCarthy. But there was no serious challenger. And I didn't like the idea of the Boebert caucus kind of just saying, this is what we want. These are our demands. These are, and all of that I found a little tiring. I wouldn't say I'm a Boebert hater, but the more I watch her, the less impressed I am with her. And I think, that like they're making a point instead of just doing a coronation, having a little debate was fine. It went on, it made the GOP look a little bit silly in the long run as long as it went. But people are getting really carried away with the impact of this. We don't have to worry about government. This wasn't like the old speaker, where the House was shut down for 2 months, right? This didn't even affect a weekend. We got this thing sorted out, and the outcome was, not hard to see. But people like the doomsday, and we use a lot of, hyperbolic language on this stuff, like how important it is. Wasn't that important?
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and totally disagree with you here on two major points. One that you said, which is that this was a tempest in a teapot. I completely disagree with that. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. And two, I'm going to say that I actually am the opposite way with Lauren Boebert. I'm actually growing more impressed with her the more that I see of her, right? She started out as sort of a firebrand in the House, shouting at the president, right? Like having displays of I guess outbursts and displays that really were nothing, like sound and fury signifying nothing, but that this was much more than a display in my mind. And here's why I'll say that, John, because the way that Nancy Pelosi responded to all of this, because there were certain concessions that were made from House leadership, certain votes that are promised to be brought to the floor, as well as certain rule changes that were made, which I think were important. But here's what Nancy Pelosi said. She says that what we're seeing is the incredibly shrinking speakership. It's not a good thing for the House of Representatives. We're the people's house. We have to negotiate with the Senate. We have to negotiate with the White House. And instead, we see the diminishing leadership role of the House. You see, John, one of the major complaints that Justin Amash, our libertarian friend who was in Congress and up until recently made about the House of Representatives is that the speaker had all of the power. And if the speaker didn't want a bill to reach the floor of the House, it didn't reach the floor of the House. But what Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert and many others did in preventing the automatic nomination of McCarthy, they got key concessions on bills, 7 bills that I'm reading here from Breitbart that were promised, including number 1, John, a bill to rescind certain balances made available to the IRS, essentially defunding the police. I like to call it that because I just call the IRS cops by another measure, because it's fun to tease Republicans that they actually do want to defund the police. It just depends on what police they are. But we're talking about those 87,000 new IRS agents that came in from the Inflation Reduction Act. At least we'll get a vote on these things. We wouldn't have gotten that if there wasn't this, what you would call tempest in a teapot. What say you, sir?
I actually made that same point that Speaker Pelosi was running the House with way too much of an iron fist. I have an op-ed. I think it's going on today on that front. Now, I was under the impression that McCarthy kind of caved to those concessions early on in the process. Maybe I'm wrong. At least I will say this, at least his office wanted you to think he caved to those concessions early on. I do think, like there was a very anti-democratic process in the House, and we all knew it. And it bothered, I think, a lot of people, not the Democratic people, really, like the ones that are always talking about democracy. Apparently, they liked Pelosi ruling with an iron fist. And you're right that she could prevent amendments on any bills. In fact, I don't think there was an amendment proposed on a single piece of legislation over the last 4 years. So I think there were problems in how that was being handled. To your point, getting these things to the floor, does it matter? I think it does. You know what? I don't think it's going to make a difference in the House. I don't think or excuse me, in Congress. You're gonna see Republicans are gonna have a little bit more of an ability to chirp about some of these important issues. I don't think that's going to make a big change. And I guess when I say tempest in a teapot, McCarthy was going to be leader. I don't think there was any other outcome there that was going to happen. Getting some of these procedural concessions, good work. Um, I think we're going to have some debt ceiling issues coming up that are going to be important. I hope we can get some concessions there. But if you listen to the chattering media class, if you listen to progressives, they want a rubber stamp on the debt ceiling. They just want to say, no, we don't have to worry about that. We just need to pass it. That's very irresponsible. And this is how we have a $31 trillion debt that is set to explode. I don't know if you looked at the numbers. I did recently for something I wrote. What we're going to be paying on interest on our debt alone is going to be more than $1 trillion by about 2030. Think of that. Just to finance our debt, we're going to be spending $1 trillion a year. It's insane, and we got to get it under control. Is this a step towards that? I'd like to think so. I don't believe it is.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Petersen, I'm speaking to the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, Jon Miltimore. We're talking about the 15 votes that were held to nominate Kevin McCarthy as the House Speaker. So, do you believe that McCarthy will follow through on these promises to bring these votes to the floor, or do you expect that this will be a situation where it'll be meet the new boss, same as the old boss, or are you maybe more optimistic because Republicans tend to be for limited government when they don't hold the White House?
I'd like to think he'd at least bring these things to the floor. And I do think it was kind of disgraceful that you couldn't get any legislation to the floor without, without Speaker Pelosi's personal approval on these things. So yeah, I'm going to give McCarthy the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's going to promise something and then renege on that. Again, will we pay attention? When I talk about the Boebert caucus, partly they do still come off as a little fringe and firebrand, and I think that getting these things to the floor, I'm not sure it's going to make the difference we want, and I'm not sure they're the right messengers. Like, there are people in the GOP caucus, I think that could be, but I will speak to a larger point I referred to. There is a problem, and I think Byron York had a good piece on this last week. There's no leader in the GOP. If you had to say, George W. Bush long gone, and that's good. That's a good thing. Donald Trump would like to be the a sort of leader. Republicans are wise to say no. McCarthy trying to be that. There is no leader, and that will present a problem. I think for libertarians, we kind of like the no leadership thing, right? Like, we kind of, because we see individuals, we like individual action. We don't like strong leaders steering everything. But if you're a political party, that's a big issue. And I don't see who's going to emerge from this as a strong leader. Because there's things about McCarthy that really do. He would have been down on my list. He's way too supportive of the intervention in Ukraine and what we're doing over there. There's a lot of problems we could talk about with his record on spending. The bottom line is, to rise in Washington, you kind of got to be a person that I'm not going to be a big fan of, and that's sort of just the culture today. So I think we could have done worse than McCarthy, but I don't see him bringing the change you or I desire.
Well, who's in your mind in Washington, D.C., who is not the fringe firebrand like Lauren Boebert, but who has maybe the values of a Lauren Boebert, or at least the values that you admire, that actually has the skills to rise in Washington, D.C.? Is that, just no one?
Yeah, I would say two people I think have that potential would be Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise. I think both of those guys have that potential. I would have rather seen either one of them become the speaker. I think they're more principled than Kevin McCarthy. I think but let's face it, principles and House Speaker don't exactly go together that well. I don't think Pelosi's a very principled person, but you do want a speaker that can really, really rally votes and do those things. If you're Now, again, it kind of challenges our libertarian position, because we don't want legislation really passing anyway. But
That's true.
So we'd much rather have a principled speaker than one that's great at counting votes and great at rallying in his caucus. But I do think, Jim Jordan, specifically, is a guy that I like. He's like me. He's a former wrestler. He went a lot further than I did, and he was a D1 champion. And I think he's got guts. He's got the principles, and he's a guy I'd like to see rise in Washington.
There you go, Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise. All right, good to know. Well, I'm glad that you're not one of those libertarians who just says, I hate them all, none of them are doing a good job, and I don't like anybody, and nobody can do it, blah, 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 blah. It sounds like at least you've got your eye on some people who are making the right moves up there to try and advance our principles and doing it in a way that, doesn't require you to sound like an insane person up there in Washington, D.C., which, of course, is kind of nice every once in a while, sounding sane. Jon Miltimore, managing editor for the Foundation for Economic Education. Anything else that you think that our listeners should know, or any plugs you'd like to make before we let you go?
No, just happy being on with you again Monday. Check out our content on fee.org. We have stuff going up every day on liberty, on economics, and look forward to seeing everyone.
I read fee.org every single day, and so should you. Jon, thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, appreciate it, AP. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you very much. All right, what did you think of Jon Miltimore? Send us a text. 573-319-1586. I got lots more fun for you to go. Coming up next, Eye Patch McCain. He actually said it. He said the words, Eye Patch McCain. Yeah, that's right. The guy who called you a terrorist for opposing the McCarthy nomination or for supporting Matt Gaetz and all those guys. He said the words. He said, Eye Patch McCain. That, and at 8 a.m., don't forget, we've got artificial intelligence. I'm going to show you how I learned to stop worrying and love the robots. All that and more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Were you exposed to hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result?
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot redheaded libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Still lots of great content for you today. Kevin Demerit from Lear Capital will be joining us here in a few minutes to discuss the future of gold and why China is amassing so much of it. We'll talk about that as well as the inflationary policies that are eating up all of our cash. Have you seen the price of eggs in New York City? $10 for a dozen eggs in New York City. Unbelievable. I bet Quest Fanning could tell us a thing or two about that. We'll talk to Kevin Demerit about that in just a few minutes. And then after Kevin, I'll give you a demonstration of artificial intelligence and show you how I'm incorporating it into my workflow, incorporating it into this morning show, and how you can use artificial intelligence to make your life even better. Then at 8:30 this morning, we'll talk to J.D. Tuccille. J.D. is going to join us this morning to talk about the feds snooping on innocent citizens buying guns in the state of Maine. We'll talk about that this morning at 8:30. You don't want to miss a single minute of that. We'll talk to J.D. From Reason. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. But first, before we do, let's head over to our Twitter weirdness and see a very weird person. I Patch McCain, he actually said the words. Take a listen to this. Dan Crenshaw from Texas.
People call me terrible names. I'm not allowed to clutch my pearls when I get called terrible names. But I fight back, and people are like, how could you, Dan? How could you? How could you, Dan? Oh, they call me I Patch McCain. They call me I Patch McCain. They call me I Patch McCain.
Oh my God.
But when I fight back, oh, how could you, Dan? You call me Rhino. You say I don't believe, even you know, Chris, like we talked about, the crazy crap that's said about me.
Oh my
People call
God.
me terrible names. I'm not allowed to clutch my pearls when I get called terrible names. But I fight back, and people are like, how could you, Dan? How could you? How could you, Dan? Oh, they call me I Patch McCain.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That is some funny stuff. That is some funny stuff. Well, I Patch McCain. I mean, Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He's apologized for describing his colleagues as, quote, terrorists on CNN's State of the Union, saying that to the extent that I have colleagues that were offended by it, I sincerely apologize to them. Crenshaw said last week that the hardliners are enemies now and argued that we cannot let the terrorists win. Yeah, terrorists, your fellow Americans who are fighting for limited government, Dan Crenshaw. I just have to say, this guy pisses me off more than just about anybody in there. It is as if John McCain has been reincarnated with an eye patch. Dan Crenshaw, in calling his fellow Americans terrorists, I think is a traitor. He's a traitor not only to the principles of limited government. He's not only a traitor to the Republican Party and a traitor to his fellow colleagues, but I think that he's a traitor to his fellow Americans. Calling your fellow Americans terrorists for having a difference of opinion and actually fighting for the principles they have nonviolently through proper democratic processes, fighting for the principles that the Republican Party claims to hold to, makes you a traitor in my mind. And Dan Crenshaw is a traitor for all of the money that he steals from the American taxpayer to send over to Ukraine for this no-win, no-end in sight conflict, total waste of time, which could lead to a broader war in that region, which could get Americans actually killed. I'm sick and tired of the war hawk neocons like Dan Crenshaw who are traitors to this country. And you know what? That's all I got to say about that. I'm going to talk to Kevin Demerit from Lear Capital. When we get back. China is amassing gold like you would not believe. It's not just gold, other commodities as well. Silver, wheat, copper, all sorts of precious metals. We'll need to talk to Kevin about that when we get back. Watch for the artificial intelligence when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Petersen is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush, please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
any real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning. Austin Petersen here. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Good morning to Sarah Palacios, Dustin, Stephen Wolf, my lovely wife Stephanie, John Rail, and all sorts of good people here today. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We're going to have Kevin Demerit from Lear Capital on this morning. He's not here just yet, but I assume that he will be. I'm communicating with his handler as we speak while we're live. All right. Hopefully we'll get him in here in just a minute. We've got lots more great content for you on the program today. I'm going to talk to you at 8:30 about with J.D. Tuccille from Reason Magazine about the feds snooping on people in the state of Maine buying guns. Yeah, that's right. The federal government sending police officers to snoop on innocent Americans who are just buying guns. Love to hear your thoughts on that one. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I was reading this morning about China extending their aggressive gold buying with another 30-ton purchase in December. Listen to this. The People's Bank of China raised their holdings of gold by 30 tons in December. This is according to data on their website. This follows November's addition of 32 tons, which was the country's first reported inflow since September of 2019. Prior to that, the last previous increase had only been since October of 2016. The recent official purchases bring the nation's holdings to a total of 2,010 tons of gold. Now, while the world itself is short on commodities, China had bought 32 tons of gold in November. So the world is short on commodities and China is stocking up on them. China is not short on commodities. Listen to this. They started stockpiling commodities since 2019. China currently holds 80% of global copper inventories, 70% of corn, 51% of wheat, 46% of soybeans, 70% of crude oil, and over 20% of global aluminum inventories. And now China is aggressively stockpiling every ounce of physical gold it can get its hands on, almost as if China is actively preparing for war. Now, China has been increasing its gold reserves now in the last several months, topping up its holdings again. It was the first reported purchase that started in November for 3 years. Central bank purchases of bullion have hit a record in the third quarter of its last year of almost 400 tons. Central banks are stocking up on gold around the world, and China is aggressively stocking up on gold and other commodities. This is what countries do when they are preparing for a global conflict. Are we setting the stage for a conflict, a hot conflict with China? And what can you do to prepare for that? You can send us a text this morning, 573-319-1586. Quest Fanning messaged in, said 30 tons of gold. Who does China think they are? Mr. T. That's a great question. Stephen Wolf says China is getting ready to go to war with us and the West. I agree. I think that it's quite possible that the coronavirus pandemic has hastened a conflict that is coming with China. The question is what is it that the United States needs to do to this to prepare for this conflict? We'll talk about that with Kevin Demerit. I'm going to go ahead and go over to our please stand by screen for just a moment so I can go get Kevin, and I'll be right back. Please stand by.
I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Petersen is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social work.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Thank you for your patience today. Joining me now on camera is Kevin Demerit. He is the founder of Lear Capital and our show's sponsor. Kevin, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Well, good morning, Austin. Nice to be here.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. There have been a lot of fears about a coming conflict with China, and with China stocking up on commodities, holding like 80% of copper reserves, massive amounts of soybeans, massive amounts of wheat and other commodities that the rest of the world doesn't have anywhere near as much. It leads one to question why China is stocking up on gold as well. Any theories, Kevin?
Well, I think there's a couple. Number one, the Taiwan situation has probably caused a little angst, and they're wanting to get rid of the dollar reserves and add some gold. What's happening in Russia with the United States kind of shutting down trade with Russia with oil, and Russia using commodities like gold to be able to transact with other countries and get around some of the restrictions that the United States has placed on. And a big one is, China still holds a lot of U.S. reserves, and we have 7.5% inflation right now. So what a better way to hedge against inflation than sell off some of those reserves and replace those reserves with gold. And that's what we're really seeing around the country, not only China, or around the world, not only China, but other countries have been purchasing a lot of gold in the central banks as well.
Now, if other countries are purchasing gold, I mean, are they reacting to what China is doing? I mean, this is more recent, right? Because what I've been seeing is that, China had not been purchasing gold for something like, 3 years. And then all of a sudden in, I think, October or November, they start these massive gold purchases. Are other central banks around the world reacting to what China is doing? Or, I mean, or is everybody seeing some statistic that the rest of us lay people aren't seeing? Why are they doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have an article here. As of the beginning of this year, central banks around the world are buying at the fastest rate since 1967. That's according to the World Gold Council. So in the past 55 years, Austin, we have not seen the central banks purchase as much gold as they have right now. Well, the interesting part about that is 1967 was right before the 70s inflation. And in 67, the government was pumping up the money supply, adding on debt. And then through the 70s, as most people know, you had massive inflation. So the central banks today are getting prepared for what they believe will be a much more extended period than I think most people believe inflation will stick around, because 7.5% inflation is fairly devastating over long periods of time. Even 5 or 4% inflation can really hurt retirees, and it would dramatically hurt central banks' holding of US dollars. So replacing with gold makes a lot of sense.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Petersen. I'm speaking to Kevin Demerit. He is the founder of Lear Capital, and we're talking a little bit about China aggressively buying gold with another 30-ton purchase in December. Another question that I had for you, Kevin, I'm reading about Alan Greenspan, ex-Fed chair, he's predicting that a U.S. recession is the most likely outcome of what's happening right now. Are you seeing these signs as well?
Yeah, Janet Yellen said that it would take a lot of skill and luck not to go into a recession in 2023. And I think you're seeing a lot of the billionaire, hedge fund managers, so on and so forth, say the same thing. We have pumped up the money supply so much to the tune of $23 trillion since 2008. And now they're pulling that money back out of the economy. And when you do that, that liquidity that's being pulled out is going to cause some problems. You're starting to see real estate prices, come down. You're starting to see the stock prices come down. Those are the telltale signs usually of a recession around the corner. And I think you'll probably start sniffing around for that kind of activity where you get more and more of a slowdown at the end of January, beginning middle of February.
Kevin, a lot of the listeners to this show are big skeptics of the Federal Reserve. In fact, many of them would like to see an end to the Federal Reserve. So when you hear these kinds of prognostications from former chairs of the Federal Reserve and from people like Janet Yellen and others, I mean, do we have any reason to believe what they have to say, considering how wrong they've been in calling things in the past? I mean, I typically tend to be the type of person who looks at someone like Janet Yellen or Greenspan and see what they say and then do the opposite. So if Greenspan says that there's going to be a recession, does that mean maybe it's a good time to get into the stock market?
Yeah, here's the thing. When they're in office, here we heard about inflation being transitory. And everybody out there who's in the financial market said there's no way it's going to be transitory. It's never been transitory when you start to see inflation go up like that. So when these Federal Reserve chairmen are in office, I think it's very political driven. When they're out of office and you can kind of say what's on your mind and really look at the economy and give their honest opinions, I think that's much more valid than the people who are actually in office at this particular time, in my personal opinion.
Oh, that's a good one. Kevin, we've got a couple of listener questions this morning. Matt Unruh sent in a question, a super chat over on YouTube, and asked, could I roll over my IRA into a gold IRA?
Great question. The answer is yes. It's a real easy process. We basically can transfer any portion of an existing IRA or Roth IRA over to Equity Trust, who we use as a self-directed IRA custodian. And then you place physical gold or silver into that account, and then you can buy and sell it just like you would a stock. So it's a very easy process. The paperwork takes about 5 or 10 minutes. And the transfer takes anywhere from 3 to 7 days.
Right now is probably a really good time to be doing something like that as well, Matt. If you're going to make that kind of a decision, make sure that you use our link, learaustin.com, so that we get credit for that. We'd appreciate it, Matt. Andy had a question for you as well, Kevin. He says, how does one gauge the difference in cost of coins versus bullion? The numismatic value seems to be a bit slippery to get a hold of. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the numismatic premium is just a market set price. If you look at American Eagles, and it sounds like he understands the market here. Silver American Eagles usually trade at about $2.50 over the spot price. They're trading at $4 or $5 over the spot price today. And a month ago or so, it was 10 to 12, even as high as $15 over the spot price. It's all market driven. It's not that you're paying this premium and not getting it back. You're paying the premium, and the dealer will pay you a premium, whatever the premium is in the market when you sell. But all of those numismatic premiums are market set most of the time.
That's good stuff. Andy Opperman, thanks for sending that text to us this morning at 573-319-1586. Kevin, is there anything else that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go?
Nah, just, get educated. And if you're going to do something in precious metals, I mean, it's a great question about IRAs, but, outside of an IRA, kind of diversifying your portfolio, just get some education. We've got some great materials to try to help people understand, more of the question on the numismatic premiums or premium coins, and then also IRAs and so on and so forth, because inflation is kind of here to stay. And I think the recession's right around the corner.
If inflation's here to stay and a recession's around the corner, there's no better time to get some more information from Lear Capital about ways to protect your savings and your retirement. Kevin, thank you very much for your time today. We're grateful for you and for your sponsorship of the Wake Up America show. Have a great week.
You too, Austin.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah. So if you're going to get more information, do it through our website link at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. When we get back, how I learned to love a robot. I'll give you a demonstration of how I'm using artificial intelligence to change my workflow and this show. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that. All right, what do you say we cut those commercials short just a little bit and get right into the fun stuff? I thought it might be nice for us to go ahead, and since we're going to have JD Tuccille here in just a few minutes, to go ahead and start the demonstration for how artificial intelligence is changing my workflow. Now, for other people who work in different careers, this might not be as applicable to what it is that you do, but I will try and do my best to show you how this workflow could be useful to you and how you can take advantage of this new technology that is available to you for free online. The first program. How about this? How's that? Should I put audio in there? Would you like to actually hear what I have to say? Yeah, how about that? Sometimes I'm an idiot. I need an artificial intelligence person to show me artificial intelligence to run this entire show for me. What do you say? All right, okay, now we're going. Okay, so if you've been watching my YouTube channel lately, I've been creating these short videos, and I started a new series called Guns of the Presidents. And so in order for me to write the scripts for this, it takes a lot of time, a lot of research as well. So artificial intelligence is a great tool for research, but not only can it help you do research, but it can actually do a lot of your work for you. So for example, let's say that today I want to do a short video about guns of one of the presidents. Let's say like guns of the presidents. Let's say write a 1-minute YouTube video script about guns used by Dwight Eisenhower. Boom. Okay. Well, the error is going to happen, of course, while we're live. It's not going to be nice to us. We have to refresh the screen, come back here. They're experiencing high demand, they say. Yeah, everybody is using this now. Write a 1-minute YouTube script about the guns used by Dwight Eisenhower. Here we go. Now watch. So this is writing now a 1-minute script for me, set exactly to 1 minute. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be talking about the guns used by Dwight Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States. During his time in office, Eisenhower was known to be an avid hunter and outdoorsman. He owned several firearms, including a shotgun and a revolver. One of the guns that he was fond of was a Winchester Model 70 rifle. It was a popular choice for hunting, known for its accuracy. In addition to his Model 70, he also owned a Smith & Wesson Model 19 revolver. It was a popular choice for law enforcement and military. So there you have it, a brief look at the guns by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Boom. My script is done and completed, all thanks to this Chat GPT script. Now, this is a fantastic tool for me because now I can have these scripts written for me. It's important, of course, to fact check it, and I won't use this word for word, but this is an awesome outline for me, right? You just ask Chat GPT the question that you want it to research for you, and it'll do it. Now, one of the things that's amazing too is that it can not only do research, is it can also write think about it, it can give you explanations for what is quantum computing. I actually used this software to write an entire movie script over the weekend, an entire film script. See, write a movie scene where a character named Austin falls in love with a sweet red-headed girl named Stephanie, and he asks her to marry him. Watch this. Austin and Stephanie are sitting on a blanket on the beach watching the sunset. Austin turns to Stephanie and takes her hand in his. Stephanie, I have something important to ask you. What is it, Austin? You know how much I care about you, and you know how much you mean to me. I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. Will you marry me? Stephanie's eyes fill with tears as she looks at Austin. Oh, Austin, I love you so much. Yes, I'll marry you. Austin smiles, slips a ring on Stephanie's finger. They embrace and share a passionate kiss as the sun sets over the ocean. Amazing. There you go. You've got your movie script scene. This is fantastic. It's a great way for you to be able to take advantage of artificial intelligence to do other amazing things. Now, here's the thing. I do Twitter a lot. I have to sometimes respond to tweets in order to drive engagement. All right. Did you go to church today? What was this sermon about? Okay. Well, I would like to answer that question, but I don't want to have to think of a witty response to this. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to highlight this tweet, hit Control M, ask Merlin. Merlin is in a chat extension that installs into Chrome that you can call your artificial intelligence up and say, write a witty response to this tweet. Enter. Life is too short to take it too seriously. Hashtag live, laugh, love. Sometimes the artificial intelligence not amazing. Okay, let's see. Today is my 2-year anniversary of walking away from the Democrats. This tweet has a lot of engagement, so it would be a good idea for me to respond to it. I'm going to retweet it so that it gets into people's feeds. I'll copy this tweet, hit Control M. Now this is a Chrome extension called Merlin. And I'm going to write a witty response to this tweet. Witty, how about this? An encouraging response to this tweet. Boom. Congratulations on your 2nd anniversary, your true inspiration for taking a stand and making a positive change. Here's to many more years of success. #2 anniversary, #positive change. Come over here, grab that, respond to it, and tweet your reply. Boom. There it is. And now I'm driving engagement on my Twitter. Now, this is fantastic for social media workflows. It's great for people who are writers. How about this? Let's say that you're a blogger. Let's go over to Chat GPT and say, write the top 5 most influential members of Congress blog in 1,000 words. It's thinking, it's experiencing very high demand. So we might not get the kind of responsiveness that we'd really like to see right away, just because, again, this is the hottest thing in the world right now. Only one message at a time. Please no other messages to be. Okay, fine. Okay, so there was an error generating a response. Let's refresh. We'll try it again. Save and submit. Please try reloading. All right. Well, again, experiencing exceptionally high demand. Yeah, it does happen. Okay, here we are. Now, this is fun. Austin Petersen fighting crime. So this is called stable diffusion. And so for those of you who are familiar with the AP for Liberty shop, I dropped some merchandise over the weekend that I created using artificial intelligence. Now, this was real intelligence. My wife made this awesome hoodie on her own. But Thomas Jefferson case, the art for this phone case was created by artificial intelligence. All right, so take a look at this. The cure for 1984 is 1776. All right, you got Thomas Jefferson holding a military rifle over his arm here. Awesome stuff, right? Makes this, like, I would have to pay a lot of money to hire a designer to make an awesome design. So this is a design that's called synthwave. So synthwave is the style of the Wake Up America show. When you see, the backgrounds, all the colorful purples and pinks and all of that style is called synthwave. So in order to keep everything copacetic, I asked for, now I used this AI to make this called DALL-E, Open AI, right? And this is what I used to make this one. It's the most popular version of artificial intelligence, but this is a competitor to it, which is totally free. DALL-E, you can only do like 50 a month unless you pay. So stable diffusion is another version of artificial intelligence. Let's say Ron Paul ending the Federal Reserve. Generate image. All right. Now this will take a moment, and who knows what will come of this. But I see people are asking questions like back in about like college papers and things like that. They are already starting to generate algorithms that can detect artificial intelligence for research papers. So don't get too excited about that. All right, we're waiting now for a picture to be generated of Ron Paul ending the Federal Reserve. You can see our progress here. Again, this is going to be amazing for people like myself who are creatives trying to create designs. Copacetic, $5. Thank you very much for that word. I appreciate that. Yeah, cheer. Oh, wait, you can't hear that because I didn't set up the audio right for this scene. Oh, there we go. Here's Ron Paul, and he's ending the Federal Reserve. You know what? That's not too bad. It's not too bad, actually. I mean, there have been worse likenesses out there. I think that that's a pretty good likeness of Ron. I think the real big joy. Look at this. Look at this. Dave Rubin. See, in responding to this tweet, I've got Dave Rubin now responding, retweeting, answering questions. Here we go. All of this because of artificial intelligence, and we'll see this starting to grow. It's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Let's talk to JD Tuccille when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Were you exposed to hazardous
I'm
material?
Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Petersen is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be...
Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Well, government snooping, we know it goes on, but to what extent? JD Tuccille writes over at Reason that government snoops in Maine have been caught spying on peaceful Americans. He says that intelligence gathering fusion centers repeatedly abuse civil liberties without making us safer. Joining us now on the phone line is JD Tuccille from Reason. Good morning, JD. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Well, thanks for having me on.
JD, I remember back in the day, in the heady old days of 2008, my home state of Missouri, where I was born, raised, and where I'm broadcasting the show from right now, we put out a MIAC report about Congressman Ron Paul supporters and Bob Barr supporters potentially being domestic terrorists. I thought that those were the days of the past, but it looks like all of this kind of stuff, these shenanigans, are still going on, like in places like Maine. You want to give us a breakdown of your story here?
Absolutely. I mean, the specifics of this case are that there was a Maine state police detective named George Loader, and he raised concerns with his superiors about a fusion center, which is where state, local, and federal officials work together on domestic intelligence operations. And he raised concerns that they were gathering information on perfectly law-abiding people, peaceful people who posed no threat and weren't engaged in any crimes. They demoted him. And he actually retired as a state trooper, bounced down from being a detective. He sued, and a jury awarded him $300,000 in damages, saying that he was absolutely right. He was a whistleblower, and they'd retaliated against him. And the judge is going to decide what he's owed in back pay and benefits. So, the federal court, the jury said, yeah, he was actually demoted for reporting that this fusion center domestic intelligence operation was spying on law-abiding Americans. And it's kind of chilling, but it's also a repeated pattern. This has been going on since these fusion centers were created 20 years ago after 9/11. And people have been warning about this. And they point to examples, and it keeps on happening.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to JD Tuccille about fusion centers. Talk to us a little bit about them spying on people who are buying guns.
Well, absolutely. I mean, basically, he laid out three categories of people who, in particular, were being spied on by this Maine Information and Analysis Center. And he said there were people who protested against Central Maine Power's transmission pipeline, people who applied to buy firearms, and counselors at a Seeds of Peace summer camp, an ideologically oriented summer camp in the state. People applying to buy guns were among the category people being spied upon. And apparently the MIAC, this Maine Information and Analysis Center, had concerns about some people. They, got on the radar, and they went and applied to buy firearms, but they weren't precluded from purchasing them. They weren't, a criminal. They didn't, there weren't any knocks on them that would say that they're not allowed to go and purchase a firearm, run the background check. And these people jumped through all the legal hoops we have to do to buy firearms these days. But they ended up in the database anyway. They're being compiled. Their names end up in there as people of interest for the future. And the thing is, what makes this especially dangerous is that these fusion centers not only compile this information, it's not like it just sits in a filing cabinet someplace. They send out bulletins from time to time to local and state police departments saying, be on the lookout for this class of people or these individuals, this organization. And local police departments use these as guidance as to who they should scrutinize. People get pulled over, they get extra attention, they get jacked up by the police because these bulletins go out from these fusion centers. And this keeps on happening. These fusion centers change their attention of who they're focusing on. I mean, this year it might be gun owners, people applying to buy firearms. Back in the old days after 9/11, unsurprisingly, it was American Muslims. Since then, it's been right wingers, left wingers, peace activists, basically anybody you can imagine, bored government law enforcement bureaucrats filling their hours with by focusing on, then sending out memos saying, be on the lookout for this group. And you're pulled over by the side of the road wondering why. Well, they're why.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to JD Tuccille of Reason Magazine about these fusion centers. So, despite the fact that there have been many complaints about the civil liberties implications of this, they continue to snoop on innocent Americans, despite the fact that they don't have a Fourth Amendment right to do so. So, I guess this will just continue unabated. I mean, is there anybody doing anything about this, or you know, is it pretty much just one lone article from Reason Magazine once every 6 months or so?
We do ring the bell about these folks, but it's not just us. In fact, it's not just private civil liberties organizations. Back in 2012, the United States Senate, the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations, looked into fusion centers because so many people have been complaining about the ACLU complained about them, the Brennan Center complained about them, the Electronic Frontier Foundation complained about them and said that these were just domestic spying operations doing no good. And what remember, these are senators, this is a Senate subcommittee, the bosses, when they have oversight because these fusion centers were administered by the Department of Homeland Security. In their report, they could identify no reporting which uncovered a terrorist threat, nor could it identify a contribution such fusion center reporting made to disrupt an active terrorist plot. But they did find that DHS assigned detailees to the centers forwarded intelligence, and quotation marks are theirs, of uneven quality, oftentimes shoddy, rarely timely, sometimes endangering citizens' civil liberties and Privacy Act protections, occasionally taken from already published public sources, and more often than not, unrelated to terrorism. So the U.S. Senate itself, the bosses, the Homeland Security Committee that oversees this operation said these fusion centers are useless and they're a threat to our civil liberties. And they said so 10 years ago. And you know what changed since then? Nothing.
JD, I'd like to ask you a separate topic. You wrote another piece that came out just this morning on Reason, titled "With Jordan Peterson, Occupational Licensing Becomes a Way to Censor. New mechanisms to threaten liberty are brought to bear on those who need the government's permission to do their jobs." What's the premise here?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Peterson, this controversial Canadian psychologist, kind of a hero in some circles, a villain in others, high profile ever since he kind of challenged and pushed back against critical race theory, social justice theology, ideology, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, the governing body, the licensing board in Ontario, where he's licensed as a psychologist, is the Ontario College of Psychologists. And they've called him out basically for having a high profile, for saying some edgy things, for having a political opinions, for criticizing the country's prime minister, Justin Trudeau. Basically, all the sort of things that public intellectuals do and inevitably anger some people and get cheered by others. They called him out for it and require him to undergo a social media counseling therapy before they'll approve the continuation of his license. He's publicized the process. He's published the documents of which he's called out, and he's refusing to comply. So I pointed out that here at the licensing process, and occupational licensing has been controversial for a number of years. It's been criticized by both Democratic and Republican White Houses, Obama and the Trump administrations, as being a barrier to entrepreneurship and it drives prices up for consumers, and it doesn't improve the quality of services. Here it's being used in Ontario, Canada, as a means of enforcing conformity and censoring the speech of a psychologist whose opinions don't conform to those of the people who run the licensing board. And I pointed out, okay, very dangerous. And this is not what licensing was sold as. And it's not just in Canada. I mean, we had a law go into effect at the beginning of this year in California, where medical doctors in the state who are accused of spreading misinformation about COVID-19 treatment can be stripped of their licenses too. Now, COVID-19, obviously, we hope is going to be fading to the rearview mirror. This should be a temporary issue, but it's not the only politicized issue in medicine. Medicine has become incredibly ideologically biased, dominated by social justice types too. And if they're going to start using the licensing process to enforce conformity, to punish alleged misinformation, remember, misinformation these days is just in the eyes of the authorities, the powers that be. It means you disagreed with them. If they're going to be using the licensing process to publish misinformation, that means it's become a censorship process. That if you're in a licensed profession or a trade, and that's about more than a quarter of all jobs in the United States these days, that you could be muzzled using this administrative process and forced to conform to official opinion. That's incredibly dangerous.
Is there any evidence that occupational licensing actually increases the quality of goods and services that are on offer?
In fact, no, there is not. I mean, that's how it was sold, right? It was going to make the world a safer place for us. We're going to go to these licensed tradespeople, professionals. But there's a big study that came out of the Institute for Justice just this past fall. And they looked across the ratings of licensed and unlicensed practitioners in various fields. And they found that there was no improvement in the quality of services. And in fact, there was a slight decline registered among licensed practitioners in any given trade or profession relative to unlicensed, probably because it reduces competition and it shields those who are already practicing from the new entrants to the field. So licensing does not improve the quality of services, so it's not protecting the public. I mean, honestly, who looks for a license on the wall? You ask people for recommendations, who's good, who's not, right? So it does not improve the license, the quality of services, and it does. There's a lot of evidence that it does act as a barrier to entry into various fields. Also as a barrier to mobility. Once you're licensed in one state, it's hard to move to another state. So it's an economic anchor on a lot of people's in terms of prosperity. It does not improve the quality of services. And now it's proving to be a threat to our free speech.
Licensing is the devil, says our friend Agorizer over in the live stream chat this morning. JD, is there anything else that you think that our listeners should know before we let you go today?
Oh, there's a lot going on in the world that I wish I could cover it all, but if they keep reading my stuff over at Reason, they'll stay informed.
We read it every single day. JD, my favorite writer over at Reason.com. Thank you very much for your time today and for being so generous with it. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. What did you think of JD Tuccille? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. When we get back, what do you say? We guys going to go play with artificial intelligence with me for the rest of the show? Why not? Let's ask it all kinds of weird questions and make some fun pictures on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Petersen is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Didi's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
The real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com. Glad to have you here today. Don't forget to visit the AP for Liberty shop website. We got a bunch of great new merchandise. Stephanie made an awesome I Love Liberty hoodie. We've also got a bunch of new Wake Up America Show merch that you can check out over there. These were made by her as well. Although we are starting to add some artificial intelligence to the programs, to the lineup of merchandise as well. And we're going to play with some artificial intelligence here in just a moment. Before we do, I want to play this clip for you because it made me laugh so hard over the weekend. I saw this one from our friend, the Amalika Panobi. Amalika Panobi? I can't pronounce that name. I'm sorry, Amalika. Well, let's just take a listen what this young lady has to say.
Fatness is rooted in anti-blackness. And the reason
Hold on, let me refresh it so you can start.
fatness is rooted in anti-blackness.
Anti-fatness is rooted in anti-blackness, she says.
And the reason why people are pursuing thinness is because they're pursuing proximity to whiteness. The reason why people hate fat people is because people hate black people. And appearing curvier, bigger is associated with blackness, especially black women.
Maybe people are pursuing thinness.
Okay, anti-fatness is considered to be anti-blackness. How would you respond to something like that? I mean, it's very cringe. Is it intelligent? Asks Charmed One. I'm not entirely sure, but I know one thing. Intelligent people who watch the Wake Up America show over on YouTube like the stream. They subscribe, and they hit the bell notification icon so that they get notifications whenever we're live. Thank you, by the way, Matt Unruh, for pointing out that the like to view ratio of the show was a little low today. We appreciate you very much. Make sure that when you're watching the shows that you hit that like button on the stream so that other people can enjoy it as well. And Henry says she loves Amala. Okay, well, I she does a really good job. All right, so who wants to play with some artificial intelligence for the rest of the program? I would like to play with artificial intelligence. Let's head on over to the scene that I set up for you today, and there will be audio. I promise you that. Okay, let's head over to Twitter. For those of you who might have missed this demonstration earlier, I was talking about how artificial intelligence is helping to make my workflow a lot faster. And this is essentially a tool that I've installed into my browser called Merlin, which you can find in your Chrome browser extensions, which uses the ChatGPT software, which you can find chat.openai.com. And the ChatGPT software can be integrated into your browser using the extension called Merlin. And what it can do is, for example, if you need something to help you with your tweets, here's Damar Hamlin. He was the footballer who had a terrible accident last week. He says, putting love into the world, come back 3 times as much. Thankful for everyone who's reached out and prayed. This will make me stronger on the road to recovery. Keep praying for me. Well, that's very nice. So let's come up with a nice, write a supportive and positive message in response to this tweet. Okay, hit enter. Merlin is casting its spell, sending you lots of love and positive energy. You are strong and get through this. We're all here for you and we'll continue to pray for your recovery. Well, since I'm not a praying person, we'll change that. Sending you lots of love and positive energy. You're strong and get through this. We are all here for you and we'll continue to be optimistic and send positive thoughts and well wishes for your recovery. Boom. So that's how artificial intelligence can help to supplement your workflow in so many ways. Let's come up with the best recipe for blueberry muffins and see what artificial intelligence has to say. It's a little slow. Here's a recipe for blueberry muffins that should turn out delicious, right? So there you go. There's a good recipe. Ingredients looks like a pretty simple one, right? And here's the thing. Don't you hate looking up recipes online and having to read some blog and go through all of the advertisements and crap in order to just find a recipe for blueberry muffins? Well, boom, here's artificial intelligence with the answer for you. Just doesn't, and you don't have any advertisements. You don't have to worry about clicking through all this crap or reading somebody's stupid life story before you get your recipe for blueberry muffins. Boom. Not only have you got your ingredient list right up top, which is exactly what you want, you've got your directions. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees, pour in the mixture, divide the batter, bake for 18 to 20 minutes until golden brown, transferring to a wire rack to cool completely. Great. What else can we ask? Some examples of ChatGPT. Explain quantum computing in simple terms. What would you like me to ask? Have the artificial intelligence, what would you like me to ask? Or what would you like me to have artificial intelligence create in terms of a picture? Send me your messages, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I'm over here looking at the types of artificial intelligence you have. The best artificial intelligence picture creator is called DALL-E 2. Unfortunately, I've already used up all my credits for that to make a bunch of awesome designs for the AP for Liberty shop. Does AI have to attribute its sources? Great question. Ask AI, what is a woman? Great question. Let's head over there. What is a woman? Oh boy, let's see what it says. Now, I have determined that I think that the AI, unfortunately, is woke. So we'll see what they says. I think that's a good one. Why is marijuana better than pills? Oh, great question. I'm not sure what it'll say. AI is really thinking about this question. What is a woman? While it's thinking, let's go over here to Stable Diffusion and say, let's do this. Conan the Barbarian got fat. Okay. There we go. So Stable Diffusion is an image generating site. It's like this one, DALL-E 2, an AI system that can create realistic images and art. from a description in natural language. I used it to create this Thomas Jefferson holding a gun that I put on our shop at apforlibertyshop.com. It's still thinking about what is a woman. Again, this thing is getting overloaded. Here we go. A woman is a female human being. The term woman is usually reserved for an adult, with the term girl being the usual term for a female or child adolescent. However, the term woman is also sometimes used to identify a female who is independent of any age, or to refer to the female human body or the general state of being female. Hey, there you go. They've actually got an answer to what is a woman. I thought that was a great question, by the way. Thank you for including that one in your A.N. Henry. Andy O asked for a butter chicken recipe. I'll let you ask that one because we've already done the recipe thing. What other questions should we ask it? Does anybody else have some good ones? Ask it, what is best in life? Okay, let's do that. Let's head back over to the artificial intelligence and ask it, what is best in life? Let's see. Let it think about that for a moment. Here we go. Conan the Barbarian got fat. What? That's not very fat. Conan the Barbarian, but he got a big fat belly and he's watching TV, eating junk food. Let's do that. Generate that image. Okay. Come back over here. What is best in life? This is a subjective question, and what is considered the best in life can vary greatly from person to person. Some people might find happiness and fulfillment in their relationships. Others might find it in their work or hobbies. Some people might find the simple things in life to be enjoyable, while others might find pleasure in more extravagant experiences. That's me. Ultimately, what is best in life is a matter of personal preference, can be different for each individual. Imagine if Conan the Barbarian had answered the question in that way. Wouldn't that have been hilarious? I think that would have been good. Now, one of the cool things too about these is that you can tell it not only to generate an image, but you can tell it what style you want it to generate the image in. Look, here we go. Conan Barbarian, but he got a big fat belly and he's watching TV eating junk food. Okay, well, all right, that's all right. Well, you know, it's a little weird looking right there, but I've seen worse AI generated images. How about this one? A libertarian in a synth wave style picture of a libertarian fighting for freedom. Generate image. How about that? Let's see what awesome photos we get with that. Do we have any other interesting questions to ask? Why can't folks accept that trans women are trans men? What are we talking about over there? Where was Barack Obama born? Great question. Obama born. This will be the last question that we ask. Let's check out here what a synthwave style picture of a libertarian fighting for freedom. Again, the synthwave is like the style of the Wake Up America show. When you see those 1980s style kind of pictures like these, this is the synthwave style. And somebody asked for this on a t-shirt. I'll put that on a t-shirt for you later today. Barack Obama was born in 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii. Elizabeth, there you go. We now know the answer to that question. Artificial intelligence told us. All right, let's see. This will be the last thing before we go. A synthwave style picture of a libertarian fighting for freedom. You know what? That's actually kind of awesome. I like it. Here we go. Look at that. Libertarian fighting for freedom. Awesome. You know what? I think it's great. Artificial intelligence. I'm going to incorporate that into the show. We're going to continue to add all kinds of awesome features to make the show even better. What do you think? It was a great show today, wasn't it? I really got a good time. It was good to see you all again. Make sure that you like the stream before you go. Hit that like button. Appreciate you very much. And if you're going to visit our friends, our sponsors, LearAustin.com, glad to have you here. Are there people in here who think he was born somewhere else? Roger Sterling from New York. I don't know. Maybe there are. Doesn't matter to me anymore. He's not president of the United States anymore, but he does do a really good promo for the Wake Up America show. Don't you think so? We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a great show today, and may you have a wonderful day. If you have any more questions about that artificial intelligence, then feel free to hit us up. Visit the AP for Liberty Shop website. Get yourself some awesome merch. Support the show, and we'll see y'all very soon. Bye, Ann Henry. Goodbye, Quest Fanning, Doug H., Steffi Peterson, Tolly Owens. Quest, Fanning, Matt, Unruh, Dustin, and all of our friends on the Wake Up America Show. We'll see you tomorrow on wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.